We now come to a segment of the afternoon program, the final one before we break, in which we celebrate Bob Hauser's time as the executive officer of this society. Now, it's easy enough to list some of the accomplishments of Bob's 7.5 years as executive officer. It must first be remembered that he came into office at a moment when his predecessor was seriously ill and unable to introduce him to the detailed workings of the staff, the committees, and the departments. He solved that problem by producing, in remarkably short order, a strategic plan, an encyclopedic strategic plan, as I think he would characterize it himself. That gave him both the needed knowledge and a sense of purpose to which to apply his remarkable energy. Now, of course, almost anybody can produce a strategic plan. What matters is executing it. And that he did. Those who attended any of the listening sessions held in the process of generating our new strategic plan have heard the list of accomplishments, which are numerous. And they were carried out to a large degree in the face of the vast crisis created by the pandemic, with all of its consequences for our meetings, for staff ability to work with our collections, the violent gyrations in various financial realms, and much more. Bob would be the first to tell you about the contributions of others in the leadership and staff to the fact that we came through those years in far better shape than we might have expected, and in fact, having achieved significant progress, and certainly in much better shape than most other organizations that I know. But he was, after all, the person in charge. Many qualities contributed to Bob's record of achievement at the APS. One was sheer doggedness and determination. To this, perhaps, he might himself attribute the conclusion of years and years of negotiations with the David Library of the American Revolution, leading to the creation of the David Center in the library and museum. This has given a notable impetus to the growth and reach of our programs in the early history of this country. But he would also, and importantly, acknowledge areas in which he didn't see problems early enough, and he has mentioned these in many places. But the key quality here, I think, is his ability to grow and to learn, and to refuse to let mistakes compound themselves. That grace and determination has brought us to a dramatic resurrection of the APS press, as Bob and Peter Doherty more or less persuaded one another not to accept failure in the search for a new director of publications. And the two of them have collaborated in such a way that we now have exciting new books, a viable production distribution system in collaboration with the University of Pennsylvania Press, books galore in the pipeline, and a great new director in Kim Gwinta. Another turnaround has enabled us to enter into the era of our Center for the History of Science, with Adriana Link as its inaugural curator, and to make it a focus of our upcoming capital campaign. Bob has somehow, as he said in recent remarks to the council, come to believe that in all of this he was acting simply as a manager. This is manifestly untrue. Everyone who knows him recognizes his wide-ranging intellect and interests, which Patrick alluded to in his remarks earlier. And I cannot think of a single decision we have made in his time that has not involved direct intellectual interest on his part, as he has delved deeply into every subject that has come on the table, just as his own musical interests have helped make this hall a better and much more used space for musical performance. The leitmotif of inequality, visible in our recent exhibitions, also comes from him. Bob's essential quality as executive officer, I believe, has been his passion for every part of the society's mission. And that is rooted in the life of the mind, a very capacious mind. This has been the root of our great progress since 2017, and it is this that I ask you to join me in saluting today. Now we have some presentations to make to Bob this afternoon. So we will start with the most meaningful, a message from Bob's son Josh, who was not able to join us today. So I'm going to sit down and
Hello, my name is Josh Hauser, and I'm Bob's eldest son. I'm professor of trombone at Tennessee Tech University, and I can blame that largely on Bob and Tess. They both had been involved in music growing up, with Tess going on to get a degree in violin and viola. Both my brother Seth and I were encouraged to play string instruments at a young age. I began on cello in 4th grade, and Seth began playing Suzuki violin shortly after that. In middle school, I played euphonium in the school band and cello in our local youth symphony. And when I started high school, I dropped the cello in favor of the trombone. Definitely a wise choice. Unfortunately for Bob and Tess, their example and expectation stuck, and music has been both my vocation and avocation. I have lots of memories of growing up with music in the house, helping my dad to wire speakers to create a whole house system, playing duets with Tess when she would play the left hand of the piano on popular tunes while I played the melody, playing Name That Tune with Bob in restaurants whenever we would hear jazz, trying to ID the song and the artists. One of the other memories I have is of Bob playing the piano. He was not a great player, but he clearly enjoyed it, especially when he would practice Gershwin's piano preludes. I recall how excited he was when we found a recording by Kenny Burrell, a jazz guitarist who we went to see in a club in Detroit on a visit to Tess's parents, playing his version of the second prelude. I also recall going with them to hear a performance by Jeffrey Siegel, who specialized in Gershwin's piano music. Bob has also been kind enough to help support our trombone studio here by purchasing a contrabass trombone for students to play. It is for these reasons that I chose to honor Bob today with a new arrangement for trombone choir of George Gershwin's second piano prelude that includes the contrabass trombone on the bottom. You'll see it being played on the far right of the video. Be sure to listen for the last note, stretching the range of the ensemble down like a giant pipe organ. Dad, thank you for all of your help and encouragement over the years. I'd like to congratulate you on your third and hopefully final attempt at retirement. Let's hope this one sticks.
I'm now going to invite Linda Greenhouse to say a few words as well. You've got ours? Yeah. Yes. I've got that. Yes. Thank you. Oh.
Yes, now? Okay. Yeah, I apologize. So Roger said it all, and Patrick said a bit. So I just want to emphasize a couple of things. One is back in 2017 when we were recruiting for the position of executive officer, I think had it been known that within a couple of years a worldwide pandemic would shut down the APS for 2.5 years, we would have had a lot of trouble finding anybody. And we really owe a great debt to Bob, actually, along with Patrick at the library and Annie Westcott at the meetings, for keeping the place going and thriving in that very difficult period. The other thing I'll emphasize is the extent to which Bob really changed the definition of executive officer and made it the full-time job that it really had not been considered previously. It was kind of a very important, but nonetheless kind of retirement, semi-retirement type of position where the holder of the title was not expected to actually show up necessarily all that often. And Bob got himself an apartment down the street and showed up every day. So it really, it was something that was essential given the complexity that the APS now encompasses, and that was him. So a summer ago, Roger and his wife Whitney came to visit us in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, and we live about 5 minutes from the Norman Rockwell Museum. And we were going through the fascinating collection there and noticed a selection of signed original prints signed by Norman Rockwell. And we looked at each other and said, wow, that would make one heck of a gift for the retiring executive officer. And so that being the case, I would like to call Bob up to the stage and present him with this scene of the block on which we are now, well, no, not quite. I think this is Philosophical Hall, and we're here on Chestnut Street, but this is the view of Philadelphia, of old Philadelphia, by the hand of Norman Rockwell, and that is our parting gift to you.
Am I mic'd now? Okay, that is just wonderful. And yes, I'm a fan. In spite of all of the negative things that are said about him in the press, I really am impressed with Norman Rockwell, and I loved his work. I still love his work. And my late wife Tess and I used to have a ball. There was one particular painting of a physician and administering something to a young girl in his office. That was a physician in Stockbridge. And when Tess was a student at Tanglewood, she got sick one day and had to go see this guy. So it was really so anyway, Rockwell is it's wonderfully important. And of course you guys know this stuff. Well, you know what that is, right? But this other stuff, it's a kind of a collage, because no, Franklin's office is not directly in front of the backside of Independence Hall, but it's okay, all the same. Thank you. That is just wonderful.
Great.
Do I get to?
So
I should stay up
now
here
we're going
and
to
talk.
give Bob a chance to say something. But before he does, we want you all to raise these glasses that have been passed out and toast Bob, long life and third retirement.
Thank you all.
Bob, would you? You're not obliged to, but if you.
So I don't get to read more, no, of Roger's script. So let me read my script, which I've composed. Should I say, David told us how deeply he thought about things he wrote. I did this on the fly. So let me start at the beginning, especially because Clyde Barker is here. And I remember they had difficulty trying to figure out whether I would fit in here. And so the important thing was my second personal interview here with members of the search committee. And at the close of that, and presumably before the committee had decided who to recruit, Clyde asked me two important questions. What's your drink, and do you like dogs? I mean, obviously, in the part of the legacy of this society, perhaps because Clyde was such a friend of Tom Starzl. But anyway, and gin. And so I gave him the right answer to both questions, and the rest is history. I want to, I guess, say something about Josh. Josh's forte is really the brass quintet. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the outfit that made brass quintet music popular, the Canadian Brass. They were really the first. There are lots and lots. There's a tremendous amount, a large repertoire in many brass quintets now. But the Canadian Brass was it. And what happened to cement Josh into his career is that while Josh was attending the National Music Camp at Interlaken, the Canadian Brass came to play one night when all four of us, Seth and Tess and I, were all there at the same time, and bang, that was it. And in fact, later on, much later on, Josh did his doctorate in part under the direction of a trumpet player named Fred Mills, who had been the lead trumpet player for the Canadian Brass for 25 years. Now, so that's cement. I have steadfastly declined, maybe some judicial notion, to try to encourage folks here to take Josh's current brass quintet and put him on stage for one of our concerts. So I haven't done that, and you don't have to, although it would be a real treat. They're very good. Even in high school, his brass quintet was terrific, and 3 of the 5 members became professional musicians, to give you an idea. But I never imagined I'd hear one of his groups play here. And of course, what he didn't say, that's his studio that you heard from Tennessee Technological University, where he taught for many years. And obviously, that is his arrangement for a trombone choir of the second prelude, which is, as he well knows, was always my personal favorite. It's still sort of in my fingers, even though I haven't played it for 60-some years. So back to the APS. I guess I want to say the thing that everyone is expected to say on some occasions, but it is certainly true in my case, that I am immensely grateful for this opportunity to have flunked retirement for the second time. So I really am truly grateful to all of you, as members, staff, those who are not here, as well as those who are here helping make these meetings fly, and also to the friends of the APS, who really are an important source of activity and friendship and support for the society. Being here has been a real treat. I love the mission of the society, promoting useful knowledge. And I'm sort of parroting Roger here a little bit, but I always thought of this when I think of the society in sort of several different kind of what should I say, cliched ways. every time I have to describe this outfit to somebody else, I say, the American Philosophical Society, it's not about philosophy. Think about what philosophy actually means. And then the other line that I use is, of course, this is, and we'll get a taste of this not too long from now, this is Ben Franklin's Thinking, Drinking, and Eating Society. That's another one that I really like. But the important thing is that it's about everything. And I spent my 2 careers in 2 different places that focused on one thing. In one case, it was social science, as broadly conceived as I can make it, but not all that broad. And the other thing, it was a policy shop at the National Academy of Sciences, something totally different, again, from what I had done previously. And then this is totally different yet a third time, because it really is about everything, and it has just been a kick. It's been 7.5 years. I'm a slow learner, so 7.5 years of education have been just wonderful. Roger mentioned some of the big things that went on during the time I've been in this position. Oh, I have to say one other thing, especially because Linda mentioned the fact that I took this on as a full-time job. Those people on the search committee didn't tell me that it wasn't. And in my ignorance, I assumed that it was. So there I was. So Roger mentioned some of the big things, the David Center, the APS Press, and the wonderful improvements of this hall that have been really a kind of a collaborative effort among the society, the Philadelphia Chamber Music Society, Carnegie Hall, Marlborough, and several foundations. So those are big things. There's some smaller things. Oh, we've gotten rid of that screen. That's good. You notice some of our great founders here. Wonderful portraits. Sully, Peel, Stewart, all slaveholders. And every time I see that in this hall, I say, gee whiz, this is a wonderful hall, but oh my goodness. We have much to revere them about, but there are other things. And one of the things that I am proudest of here is that, as I think Roger mentioned, we have arranged so that every one of the museum exhibitions that have been held here during my tenure has had some kind of a focus on past inequalities and their amelioration. And that's been a big part of my vision for the society. And I was assured by Mary Grace Wall, who runs the museum, yesterday that will continue in the exhibitions to come. And the other thing is something that Patrick and I did together. That's the only thing we've written together, and we're not listed as authors, but there is a statement about the APS inequality in the 2020 APS News, which, among others, which goes into our really terrible history. We had slavery, we had pseudoscientific race science, and we had eugenics. And all of those were supported to one degree or another by our membership. Not only supported, but facilitated. I mean, really. There were principals, Samuel George Morton, for one. We decided to try to say something that would reimagine and relabel the society, and that's what we call the APS idea. There's all this DEI stuff. We didn't like DEI. The APS idea, IDEA, inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. And that's what we have hoped to create within the society. We have certainly been doing very well, I think, as a starter, both in terms of our elected membership, in terms of our staffing, and in one particular aspect of our elected membership, and that is increasing the number of Native American members of the society. And we've been able to do that really quite successfully in a temporary nominating group. And with no, what should I say, with no, with extraordinary people. I guess you heard Bob Miller, if you were here last time, you heard Bob Miller talk about the Oklahoma case. And he is, I think he was the second Native American to be elected to membership in the society. But I think there are going to be 8 or 9 now who have been elected in the course of my term. And I love that. Now, just a couple of more things before I quit. I've got about a minute. I want to say a word for Montgomery Blair High School. Where's David? Is he? He left. That's too bad. Because we have 2 sessions in a row here. One involving David Tatel and the other involving me. And both of us attended Montgomery Blair High School in Silver Spring, Maryland. Okay. And I want to close with some advice to my successor and really close compatriot for 6 years, and more now since he's been here back here since July, and that's Patrick Spiro. It has been a joy to work with Patrick. I think it is very difficult to untangle the accomplishments that have supposedly been associated with me in the course of this afternoon's festivities, and those of Patrick during his term as librarian. He has really been an inspiration and a fantastic colleague for me throughout that time. But I want to give some very important advice to him as he takes over my role. If you leave this building through the front door and turn left, in half a block, you will reach 4th Street. If you turn left if you cross the street and then turn left and go up several doors, you will find Dave's Barbershop. Now, Dave's Barbershop, you may not know this already, but Dave's Barbershop is an exceptionally important institution and carries a great legacy for the APS. Herman Goldstein got his haircut there. Ted Carter got his haircut there. I get my haircut there, and by God, Patrick better start getting his haircut there. So I thank you all.